Everybody, it's Paul from Karis Pen Co. And today I'm going to walk you through how to eyedropper a fountain pen. There's a lot of different videos online where you can see this and find out how to do it. You may know how to do it already, but we have gotten a lot of questions about it concerning the Decograph Fountain Pen, which can be eyedroppered. So I wanted to go ahead and sit down with you and kind of go over the process with the Decograph. That way you can see it in regards to that pen. Some other pens, they're all very similar, but when you see it with the pen that you own, then you kind of connect to it a little bit better. So with that being said, let's go over some of what you're going to need to eyedropper your Decograph Fountain Pen. The pen, you're obviously going to need that. Here's a Decograph. This is one of the Decographs. This is just one of the prototype colors that we did. I just grabbed this. It happened to be put together on my desk. So you're going to need that. You're going to need some type, I recommend some type of syringe or an ink transfer system, baby eyedropper syringe. This is actually an ink syringe. It has a blunted end on it. You can pick these up off of goulet.com or many of the other websites that sell fountain pens. So you're going to need that. I suggest having some type of cloth for any potential spills if you get it on your hands. Normally I would also say have latex gloves or some type of gloves. It does help with the cleanup. I didn't get any this time, so that's my fault. You're also going to need some silicone grease. This is silicone grease we have at the shop. That's why it looks like this. You can buy silicone grease in a variety of different places. And silicone grease, real quick, I'll walk you through silicone grease because some people have a big problem with silicone grease. In that it can potentially cause damage to vintage pens. That's not necessarily the case with modern pens. All silicone grease that you can get in a hardware store that won't harm modern fountain pens. You'll see what it looks like. What you want to do though is you want to get a silicone grease that's 100% silicone. I recommend going to Home Depot. That's where I purchased my silicone grease that I keep at the house. I don't remember the name of it specifically, but it comes in a tiny gray tin that you can, it's plastic, not a tin, but it's like a tin shape, but you can pop it open. I've had it for like 6 years and I still use it. If you're unsure about the silicone grease, you can go to the manufacturer's website and find the MSDS, and as long as the MSDS lists 100% silicone or 2 different types of silicone, that's what you want to get. If you want to be on the safe side, you can purchase silicone grease specifically made for fountain pens on different websites that sell fountain pens. You can also purchase scuba diving silicone grease from scuba diving web shops, which is 100% silicone because it has to be rated for the scuba gear that they use. So that being said, this is the silicone grease that we use at the shop. It is 100% silicone. We use it around the shop on numerous different things. So you're going to need that. You're also going to need ink. Any ink that of your own choosing, whatever you want to do. This just happens to be something we purchased. This is Lamy Petrol. We use it around the shop just for ink testers and stuff like that. So those are the main components that you're going to want to have in front of you. So walk through it real quick. Walk through the process. Let's start with the pen and the silicone grease. We do not apply silicone grease to our pens prior to shipping them to you. So this is something that you're going to want to do. I recommend doing it even if you don't use the eyedropper method. It just seals stuff up, make sure you don't have any leaks. So you're going to want to take the pen out, take the cap off, set it aside, remove the section from the barrel. Set that aside real quick. When you are shipped the pen, this will come attached. So take the converter off. You won't need that, obviously. And then you're going to want to unthread the nib from the grip section. Set that aside. Apply some silicone grease. It's nice to have one of these little brushes. That way you can be a little bit more precise with it. Apply silicone grease to the threads all the way around. You don't need a lot. A little bit of silicone grease goes a long way, especially on the nib itself. When you are putting the silicone grease on the threads to the nib, stay away from the tip of the basically the ink collector that's right there. You don't want to get any silicone grease on that. If you do, you're going to want to wipe it off because that will stop ink from flowing into the nib and it will impede capillary action. So then put the two back together, snug them up nice and neat. Then you're going to want to also put silicone grease along the section threads. A lot of people have, not a lot of people, some people have mentioned how many turns it takes to unthread the Decograph. We have very fine threads, which helps with eyedropping or with just keeping anything out of there, like the tiny threads, and having a lot of them just provide that extra bit of security. So you know you're not going to get any leaks, but especially with an eyedropper pen, you know, having those minimal amount of threads or having those tiny threads and having a lot of them helps with that. So then you're going to want to thread them back. Actually, you don't want to thread them back together. I'm getting ahead of myself. So now that you got that together, set that aside. Just try to not get the silicone grease all over everything. I'm not succeeding with that very much right now, but I'm going to set it inside here. That'll keep it off the ground. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to basically fill your barrel of ink, full of ink. So this is where it can get kind of hairy if you don't have something to hold this in. If you own a cube, pull out your cube, take all the pens out of the cube and put this into one of the slots in the cube. It will hold it nice and secure so that it doesn't you don't knock it over inadvertently. We're going to do this one-handed once we go to fill it. So the barrel of the Decograph will hold about 4 milliliters of ink. If you purchase one of these, this does have a numbering system on this syringe that tells you how many mils that you have in there. So you're going to want to put the tip in there and then draw in. These can be a little bit slow to work, but that's just for your own safety so you're not getting liquid everywhere with this. Draw in the ink that you want to go ahead and get. I'm going to go ahead and stop at 3 milliliters. I don't want to overfill it, but like I said, it will hold more. You'll see that this barrel is semi-transparent. Now, take your syringe, put it down a little bit of a ways into the barrel of the fountain pen. Depress evenly, and it's going to kind of come out slow, which is fine. You want to control it more than anything else. Some of the other systems that you can use have a much wider nozzle on them than this does, and so the ink will just kind of gush out. This is much more controlled, so you can stop it a lot easier than you can with other systems. That's all my ink. There is enough room in there. Like I said, there is enough room in there for just about 1 milliliter's worth of ink. So you can get roughly about 4 milliliters of ink in there, and you're good to go. So if you want to max out your fill, but 3 milliliters of ink is a lot of ink. I did get a little bit of ink on the threads in here. I'm not going to worry about that right now, but if you do get some ink on the internal threads, take a Q-tip, wipe that off. I'm not really concerned about it. It's not gonna come through with the silicone grease on. So then you're gonna want to go ahead and thread in the grip section all the way, snug it down, and then wipe off your silicone. And did bring a little bit of ink up to the top, so probably should have wiped that out, but like I said, I'm not really concerned about it. But if you're a stickler about making sure that you don't have ink on your section, then you're going to want to avoid that. Go ahead and recap your ink, that way you don't spill it. Set your stuff off to the side, and it shouldn't take much to get an eyedropper pen flowing. Some pens are a little bit more problematic than others, but and there you go. Your pen is working. You got an eyedropper filled pen. I have one in my backpack that I've had eyedroppered for 5 months, and it still has, and I use it at school all the time, and it still has about a mil of ink in it. So it's an easy way to carry around a lot of ink. Something that's relatively easy to do, not too difficult. A lot of people are kind of shy away from doing it just because of how it can cause a mess and people don't really want to invest in it. But if you want to go ahead and do that, you can go ahead and swap that out. This works for the Decograph, doesn't work for any of our metal pens. You don't want to eyedropper one of our metal pens, just not going to work. So if you guys have any questions about that or anything else concerning the Decograph, put them in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and stay tuned. We are going to have some special edition Decographs coming up in the next couple of months. So if you're interested in that, there's a couple of them. There's one in November and one in December, and we'll finish out the year strong. So talk to you next time, guys.